great show. I hope you're ready. Those that are tuning in and online and watching on television as well. Tonight's show is all about for the people. Someone reached out and wanted to know what's going on. So I'm bringing some of the best guys that I know that serves our Bi-City area, Russell County, and Muskogee County. So on today's show, we have none other the best sheriff I know here in Alabama, in Georgia, to be with us to share with you and answer your questions. So stick around. It's the Loretta Rose Show, and we'll be back after this.
Hello, my name is Pat Gant, and I am the CEO of Feeding, Accepting, Inspiring, and Hurting Incorporated. And I am inviting you to our 5th annual First Lady of Columbus Charity Luncheon, where we honoring the mayor's wife, Miss Karen Henderson. Special guests, Miss Edwina Finley, Miss Carolyn Traylor, September the 14th at 11 a.m. at the Columbus Convention and Trade Center.
It's really important to get out and vote because your vote is your voice. So many times people are like, oh, it's okay, I don't really have time to get out and vote. I know that so-and-so is going to win the election anyway. There's a million reasons why not to get out and go, but there's some incredible reasons why you've got to go. You have your own thoughts, your own opinions, so please get out on November the 5th and vote.
Welcome back. It's the Loretta Rose Show, and on today's show, we have some amazing servants from our community. Let's talk about what the topic is. Today's topic is what's going on. So, someone reached out, well, not only someone, but many others reached out talking about what are we doing about crime and gang violence in our community, which was one of the number one questions. And this platform is to bring in experts to address the concerns of the community or the citizens. And I couldn't think of anybody better than these two gentlemen. So first of all, how it came about, I was one of the sheriff's deputies from Muskogee. She's such a beautiful lady. She had mentioned, when are you going to get sheriff on? And I was like, I've been waiting for that time. And I said that I think this would be a perfect opportunity to have him on. And then when we got to talking, I was like, we got to get the other home guy, Russell County, because they work well together, and we want the community to see how they are serving together for the betterment of our community. So here we go. Without further ado, we have Muskogee County Sheriff Greg Countryman. Give him a hand. And of course, Russell County Sheriff Heath Taylor. So these guys are amazing. They're a blessing to our community. I've had an opportunity with Street Talk with Loretta Rose to interview them and kind of talk to them behind the scenes. So the purpose of this interview is for the community to connect with the hearts of the men behind the title called sheriff. They are amazing, and they need our partnership to make the community in our region better. So we want to say thank you guys so much. Again, thank you for your time. And first of all, we're going to jump right into it. I wanted the community and those that are watching to know how long you've been in law enforcement, and when did you know this was your career purpose? Let's start with you.
So I'm in my 37th year in law enforcement. I have been in the sheriff's office since 2010, serving as the sheriff of Russell County. You know, my father was in law enforcement in Phoenix City. My uncle was the chief deputy of the Muskogee County Sheriff's Office, Jimmy Griffin. And so at a very young age, I knew that being the sheriff was something that I aspired to and I wanted to do as a career. I was able to see as a young deputy that my sheriff that I had worked for my whole life, Tommy Boswell, the sheriffs in Columbus that I worked for, Gene Hodge and all those guys, you know, they were able to have some effect on people's lives without putting them in jail. And so I wanted to do that. I wanted to help our community, and you know, putting people in jail is probably the last thing that we do as sheriffs. It's part of the job and it's something that you got to do, but we do so much more to help people in their day-to-day life and give them some direction. And that's what drew me to that office, and that's really why I got into this business.
Yes, wow, and it shows. We appreciate you so much. And you, Sheriff Countryman?
Been in law enforcement for 34 years, started in 1990. Really didn't know that I would be where I am because growing up I had some challenges. I had a really bad stuttering problem when I graduated high school. I graduated as a special ed student, really didn't know where I would be, but for God, I am where I am, and so I'm grateful for that. My family, my brother is a retired ATF supervisor. I have a cousin with the FBI, have another cousin that retired from the DEA. My son is an investigator with us too, so I guess that it was meant to be. But I had interaction with police early on in the 5th grade through a junior police program, and the police officer was Officer Murphy, and I didn't know where I would be, but I know that that was part of the influence, but I'm thankful for where I am. And this is my first term as sheriff, and served before then as elected marshal for 16 years, and also served, I worked on a vice drug task force for Columbus Housing Police as well, and I started out with housing police and sheriff's office, marshal's office, and now I'm sheriff.
Wow, awesome. Yes, give them a hand, yes. Wow. So, guys, let's jump right into the conversation.
Let me stop.
Yes.
He's been in 37, 34, and I've been in 37, so we started when we were like 10.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I just wanted to set that clear. Well, not really that.
No, we
Wow.
feel old, but we're not that old.
Yeah, and it doesn't really, I'm pretty sure you can have some challenging days, but it feels like this is what you're supposed to do.
No.
I know it. I can tell, and that's what we want the community to connect with as well. So, I'm gonna ask you this, on a daily basis, what is the highest crime you are facing in Muskogee County and Russell County? The people wanna know. What is one of
Muskogee
highest-
County, I would say gangs, because if you look at probably all of the crime, if crime was 100%, gang activity and violence and involvement is going to probably be in about 92, 93% of that. And so if you look at the highest homicide rate that we had in Muskogee County, I believe in 2021 it was 71, about 85 to 90% of that were gang members. And so gang activity is a huge problem, not only just in Muskogee County, but throughout the nation. And last year alone, we arrested in the sheriff's office 559 gang members. We validated 242 gang members. We prosecuted 44 under the Georgia Gang Act. And so we are very serious about gang activity. As sheriff, one thing that I want to do is to ensure our citizens that we have a safe community and that the citizens can have a better quality of life. So you see some of the things that we post on our social media feed, on our in the news. That's about 40% of what we can show you. The other 60% is sometimes what scares me, but I feel good about where we are today, and I can tell the citizens of Muskogee County when I first started that it was hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but right now, based on the work that we've been doing collectively between the Sheriff's Office and our federal partners, I can see a bright light at the end of the tunnel, and I can tell you that the end of the tunnel is very short. We are working on some things that are very, very critical to our city, not only just the safety of Muskogee County, but Russell County and about 40 surrounding counties within the Georgia Middle District, that we are working on some things and getting ready to embark on some things that you will see crime drop dramatically.
Y'all give them a hand on that. Yes. And I know Heath got something to say coming behind you. I know, yeah, because we do this all the time. So, Sheriff, Countryman, you said something. We see 40%. Wow. You see the other 60. I never looked at it that way. See, the guys are helping us to see from a different lens. You can't judge it by just what you see, because you see the whole picture. That's what I love about you guys. What you got to say, man?
Well, I think obviously the gangs, as the sheriff talked about, is an issue for us as well. You know, our population is very intermingled with Columbus. And so what I see, though, is over there from the most high profile is our drugs. We have, you know, I worked in Columbus for 7 years when I was on the task force, drug task force. And so I'm very familiar with all of these guys. I grew up with them and worked with them over here. But back then, I would have said, in the 90s, I would have said 80%, 75% of the crime was drug related. The people are stealing, they're getting in fights, they're having domestics because of the addiction or trying to, you know, reach the drug of their choice. Today, it's probably 95%. So 95% of what I see is drug related. And when I say drugs, I mean alcohol and drugs, both. It's one or the other. It's either alcohol or some type of prescription drug, meth, ice, you know, marijuana that's laced with something. These kids don't know what it's different. They don't know what they're getting. And the next thing you know, they're addicted to heroin or to meth or to, you know, fentanyl, because something smaller was laced with that more dangerous drug. And so most of what we see is related to somebody, like I said, being on the drug. Even our domestics, our thefts, you know, all of those things go back to now probably 95% of drug-related issues.
Wow. Well, I know we have some people in the audience that have questions. So what we're going to do is take a break, and then we're going to have questions from the audience, and then we'll proceed more with some of the other questions from the community. Stick around. It's the Loretta Road Show. We'll be right back in a minute.
I'm Johnny James, the owner of Johnny James Barbershop, Sierra Road, South Phoenix City. And I've been here for a number of years, at least 61 years I've been here. Here's some good people have been in this shop, and I really admire all of the men and children that I have came in contact with. And my motto was, if your hair not be coming to you, you should be coming to us. And nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
Hello, my name is Pat Gant, and I am the CEO of Feeding, Accepting, Inspiring, and Hurting Incorporated. And I am inviting you to our 5th annual First Lady of Columbus Charity Luncheon, where we honoring the mayor's wife, Miss Karen Henderson. Special guests, Miss Edwina Finley, Miss Callan Traylor, September the 14th at 11 a.m. at the Columbus Convention and Trade Center.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back. It's the Loretta Rose Show, and I am with Sheriff Heath Taylor and Sheriff Greg Countryman. And during the break, we were talking about, of course, gang violence, because that was one of the #1 questions from the community and the citizens from this region. And Sheriff Countryman was sharing about some things that will be implemented that's going to ensure that we kind of annihilate some of that, what has been taking place. So would you like to update the community?
Sure. One of the initiatives that Governor Brian Kemp and Attorney Chris Carr, our AG, the Attorney General for the state of Georgia, that we've been working towards, along with our federal partners, is bringing in a gang task force. You may have watched the news yesterday and you saw the supervisor in charge for the GBI. They will be housed with us temporarily until they can get their office organized and everything running here, but we will be working in concert with the Sheriff's Office, Columbus Police Department, along with our federal partners. And so what this means is that we have a force multiplier now, because we all bring something to the table. But when you have agencies that have strengths, and one thing when we try to go after crime and criminal enterprises, for me, we target. We don't want to just throw a dragnet out there and bring in everybody. We want to know what it is that we're looking at, the reason why we're looking at, because when you talk about gang involvement, when you talk about gangs, you talk about human trafficking. There are some numbers that if I gave you those numbers, it would really scare you about where we are, but feel safe that we're on the job, that we know who these individuals are. You've probably seen last week we arrested 3 individuals that were trying to have sex with underage minors. One was age 8. So we have certain things in our community, but when you talk about gangs, you talk about drug trafficking, you talk about human trafficking, you talk about gang activity. All these things they are intertwined together with gangs. And so one of the things that I learned growing up, that my mother taught me, one of the greatest lessons, and I apply that today, that wherever you act up, you get tore up. And so I remember those days, and sometimes
Yes.
we have to be...
We missing that.
Yeah, but we have to be intentional about what it is that we do. We can fight crime, but we can be compassionate about crime too. And so one of the things that we realize is that mental health plays a huge factor in the things that we do. We have right at 1,100 inmates within our county jail, but probably out of those right at 1,100 inmates, that probably 275 are those have mental health issues. Probably about 60 of those have severe mental health issues, and they should not be in jail. And you look at, some of the court rulings that are coming down, that the United States Supreme Court just made it legal for you to be able to arrest homeless people. So things are changing, but that's not what I want to come into my jail. And if I can stop it from coming in, we want the worst of the worst, because the citizens deserve to have a better quality of life. But if we can deal with the gang issue, you deal with trigger pullers, those that are committing crimes. And so those are the ones that we're going after.
Wow. Yes. Awesome.
I'll just add a little bit of what he's talking about from this perspective of across the river and back and forth. Most people don't know that together we do saturations. On the Muskogee County side and the Russell County side, we do saturations together on the weekends, where we put extra units out specifically looking for human trafficking, the drug trafficking, the gangs, the DUIs, And we do that on both sides of the river. Now, I'm not going to tell you how often we do that, but we do that, and it's not always the same weekend. It's not every other weekend. It's not anything that is a pattern that somebody can pick up on. But the community just needs to know that we have done those things for the past year together, where we do saturations on both sides of the river. So if they run over on our side, we're there. If they run over on his side, they're there. And so we do that in conjunction with each other.
And we have a very unique relationship. Sheriff Heath Taylor swears in my investigators and some of my deputies, and I do the same for his. So that's how we can work together.
Yeah.
So we understand that we operate on strength and not weakness.
I love it. See, I love it. That's why I feel so safe around these guys, because I understand. I know you all are working very hard. We're going to let the audience, we have a couple of people that have questions, so we'll get the mic to whoever want to go first. Yes. All right. Tell us your name. He's another community servant right here in Columbus.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. And gentlemen, thank you very much for your collective experience and commitment to the community. I'm Rocky Marsh, a 9-year resident of the city of Muskogee County. And the question that I have is, a lot of citizens want to see the improvement that you're striving for. So the question that I have is, what have you seen as the most effective tool that the community members can do to help you in your job? A lot of people would love to be helpful, but they do not want to put themselves or their families in danger. So I want to know if you have seen any tool, any action from community members that help you do your jobs better.
I love it.
Thank you.
Yes.
We have a anonymous tip line because we realize that the citizens want to help, but they don't want to be called out. It's just like someone calling 911, and when I tell people if they want to call 911 to report something, just say that you want to be a non-complaining party, which means that the police will not come out to your house and knock on your door. It's just an anonymous tip. So you can say a non-complaining party. But for us, we have worked and solved a lot of cases because we can't be everywhere. We need the public's help. This is a partnership, and it takes a village to raise a child. But in order for us to keep our community safe, we have to have the help of our citizens. We have to have the help of our church community, our children, everybody, because we have to reinvest back into our community. And what has happened, what I see, that we've abandoned a lot of things that used to work, things that we were taught coming up. We don't have those things anymore, that we're so busy with electronic things that we really don't realize the things that when we didn't have it, how much better we had it. And so we really need to work on our value system that we have, and we need the citizens, we need our military people, we need everybody. This is all hands on deck.
Technology is great, and technology is always evolving, from our cell phones to tag reader cameras to all kind of technology. But the best thing that you'll ever solve cases with is talking to the public, talking to the community, talking to the neighborhood where something happens, letting them tell you anonymously where things are happening and what's going on and who's doing what. Most cases are solved by anonymous tips that come into Crime Stoppers has anonymous tip lines. Our websites on both sides of the river, you can call 911 and tell them you want to be anonymous, like the sheriff said. But our community is how you solve crime. You just got to get out and talk to them.
Good, yes. All right. We have another question? Yes.
Yes, my name is Don Adams, and the question I have, if you can give a little bit of information about the event that's coming up, National Night Out on the 6th of August, so the community at least know what's going on.
National Night Out is something, it's a nationwide program that you see blue lights and sirens and police activity involvement with the community. It's part of community policing. And so it's an opportunity for us to get to know the people that we serve, for us to be able to go into the communities, because oftentimes when you see a law enforcement officer, it's because something bad has happened. But we get to go into the community, network, we get to eat good hot fish and hot dogs and hamburgers. And so normally when we have National Night Out, I try not to eat anything because I know every stop that somebody's going to have something good. And so that's a good thing about it, is for us to be able to interact with those that we serve and to hear their problems. But it's a great program, and so I believe that Columbus Police Department and it's done across Georgia at the same time. If you had a satellite up and you look down, you will see blue lights flashing all throughout the United States.
For me, it's a I don't know how great, I'm doing it wrong, obviously, because I'm the one that has to cook on my national. It usually costs me all kind of money and providing hot dogs and hamburgers. I need to go eat like he does. My eating days is election day. I go to all the polls and I eat all the cookies and all the brownies that all the election workers bring. But National Night Out is a time for us to get out in our communities and let them see our deputies and our dogs and our equipment in a setting that's not bad, in a setting that's, where we're giving back hot dogs and hamburgers to our neighborhoods that, may not get that type of stuff on a regular basis. And so that's what we like about it.
Yes, nice. Give them a hand. That's awesome. Yes. We have another question? Front row? Belinda, attorney Belinda Strickland. Yeah, that's who it is.
Hi there, I'm Belinda Strickland. And earlier this evening, Shamar and I were both talking about, we feel that you guys are so dedicated with everything that you do for our community and for our whole area. And we were really curious about, we know that the funds that come in are usually not enough. And that we thought that you had some fundraising events, like I believe Russell County's got a big rodeo. Can you tell us about that event, and if there's any other events that both of you guys have that we could do to show up and get the public to show up to be able to get more money to help you guys with your projects?
Now, that's a good question, because I never thought about it that way, that you can use support from the community for resources as well, because them hamburgers and hot dogs be good. But I never thought about it that way.
We do. We have, but I'll be honest with you, on my rodeo, the Sheriff's Office rodeo that we do every year, it's the first weekend, Friday, Saturday of October. We do a Thursday, and what I love about it's the best day of the year, is we take every special needs student in every school around us, and we take them to the rodeo, and we cook for them, and they have a fun day, and they have their own rodeo that they get to have that day. If you've never been to a special needs rodeo, you should go. It's phenomenal to see the faces of those kids that don't get to do that. So I use that money, the rodeo money, and I give 100% of it back to charities in our community. So I don't use any of it at all.
Wow.
And we give to every charity that I can, the high schools, the battered women's, the CAC, all those charities that we try to give back to and help them financially, and that's what the rodeo is for.
That's great. Yes, I love that. And a lot of times we don't see that in the news, if I can just be real.
Absolutely. We do different fundraisers within the Sheriff's Office. We don't ask the public to give us money. We try to raise it within the Muskogee County Jail Bureau. We allow the employees to grow beards. And so we take that money and we reinvest that money to put it back into the community. We have an event account earlier this year, back in April, we did a Down syndrome, autism event. We fed probably about 600 people. Earlier this week, we did a huge event for a 4-year-old that has terminal brain cancer. We wanted to do something for him and his brother and his family, so we had a huge event for them also. If you see me in Sam's, sometimes I'm shopping for things. I went shopping today for the Columbus Community Center. which is a youth center. We went out there and we bought up the items that they needed to feed their kids for the summer programs there. So we did that. But we do a lot in community outreach is what we do. I have a unit specifically for community outreach, but I go and I shop because I love to go out, and I wouldn't ask my employees to do anything that I couldn't, shouldn't, and hadn't done. And so if I ask them to do it, I want to set the example, because if I can't do it when I ask them to do it, they need to be able to do that. And so community awareness and community involvement is what we do within the sheriff's office 100%. We did the event for the young kid, Armand. We probably had about 100 of our employees there. They're there because they want to be there. We didn't force them to be there, but this is what we do. So when I worked in the sheriff's office under Sheriff Gene Hodge, we had something on the side of our car that said, "We care." We carry that same philosophy today. We care.
Wow, awesome. I love it. Yes, we have a question. Here. Here's Mike. Tell us your name and the organization you're with.
Sure. My name is Aggie Lumpkin, and I'm with Feeding, Accepting, Inspiring the Hurting Faith Organization. And I'm also an employee of the Department of Juvenile Justice in Muskogee County. Scenario, I have a child, son or daughter, and they come home, and they're being bullied into maybe like joining a gang. What's my recourse with the sheriff department or the police department? How can I save them from that life?
Well, one of the things that we do a lot when I talk about things that you see versus the things that you don't see, we have deputies and correctional officers, and we don't mind them bringing the child to us, or either we go to them rather than you calling and say, "Can you come out on an emergency call?" Sometimes it's good for young people to hear from people other than their parents or their loved ones, because one thing that I know, even having 3 sons, that I can talk to my sons about almost anything, but sometimes they would take it from someone else better. And one thing that we focus on a lot in most cities is prevention, but we don't talk about intervention. And so those are the things that we need to intervene early, because a lot of that is going to take prayer. We see a lot of things that we have going on today, but if you read the Bible for those believers, Jesus said that in end times that the love of many would grow wax cold. We see a lot of our youth, a lot of people that are doing things because the love has grown wax cold, and so we don't need to stop praying for them. And I tell people all the time that have children, even when they mess up and they say, "What can I do?" Don't give up praying for them, and don't stop loving them. You got to love them through it. And so we've all been there before, because we've all been young. We've all done things that are similar, but in today's society, it's different. Feel free to call the sheriff's office. Feel free to call me. You can get my number afterwards if we have to assign somebody to that young person, because I would rather be able to intervene with that person, and sometimes go out and get somebody that can just take the person out and get a hamburger and just spend that time. Because one thing that's missing that I see in a lot of our young men is that we don't tell them enough that we believe in them. We don't tell them enough that we care for them, that we love them. And sometimes you see young men with their pants sagging, but nobody asks a question, "Do you have a belt? Do you need a belt?" And may not realize that they're wearing their big brother's clothes. And so that there are a lot of things that our young people carry but don't have the capacity to understand. And so if it's anything that we can do at my level, call me or see me after the show, because I want to help. If we can intervene, let's do it now.
Yes, that's good. Yes.
I would just follow up with that. We do the same thing. I have a waiver. I encourage parents to bring their kids to the jail. I let them sign a waiver, and then they leave. And we take the kids with our correction officers into the facility. And the inmates, believe it or not, they love that. They love to help the kids that they see come in. They'll try to scare them from behind the wall to let them know this ain't where you want to wind up. And it's similar to a Scared Straight program, but it's not staying. It's an hour or two of seeing what life that they're looking at if they stay on the track. The other thing that I would suggest to you is we have to stop our kids from playing video games that are nothing but shoot and kill cops, shoot and kill prostitutes, I don't know how many of you are aware of the game Grand Theft Auto 5. If you've never seen or heard of that game, you can buy drugs, kill cops, buy prostitutes, kill the prostitute and take your money back. You can totally, these kids are totally learning how to mistreat women in this video game. It is absolutely absurd. The first day that game came out, they made $800 million. To date, they have sold $6 billion off that game. It is the #1 worst game for our kids to be playing. It desensitizes kids to death. It desensitizes them to how to treat other human beings. And I know I don't want to get on a soapbox and preach, but I'm just telling you, that is an issue. And we've got to deal with it when they're playing it at 6, 7, and 8 years old. It's horrible. So that's one of the things I am telling all my parents. Please don't let your kids play those games.
Wow. Wow. She got a follow-up.
I just wanted to go back to the original question. I think it was kind of like lost. Let's just say my child, and my child is 41 years old, and I didn't have that problem. Let's say my child don't want the game, but they want him.
Right.
How do I save that child from that? He's a good child. He's going to school. Maybe a hater, and they want him in the game. He don't want to be in the game. She don't want to be in the game. And they come home and say, Mom, this is what's going on. I'm going to school, and they're trying to pull me in. I'm trying to pull me in.
We got to have conversations with the school. The #1 place that they're going to recruit is at the school and at the ball fields after school. And we've got to have conversations with the school. They've got to be aware of it. They've got to keep those kids as best they can separate. But you're absolutely right. That's how they're going to recruit.
And they also do it through social media. And so, as long as we have electronics, that's why they have cyberbullying. And so they have ways of doing things, but peer pressure is very, very difficult. And that's why I was saying you have to have someone there that can be that big brother or that big sister that they can talk to, especially in law enforcement. It's only so much that the school can do, but when you have a law enforcement officer that can intervene, and that it makes a huge difference.
Awesome. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back with our last segment, and we're going to get all the questions that we can get. But I am so glad you guys are weighing in on that, because one of the questions that came in was, where are the parents? We're going to talk about that when we come back. It's the Loretta Rose Show. We'll be back after this.
It's really important to get out and vote, because your vote is your voice. So many times people are like, oh, it's okay, I don't really have time to get out and vote. I know that so-and-so is going to win the election anyway. There's a million reasons why not to get out and go, but there's some incredible reasons why you've got to go. You have your own thoughts, your own opinions, so please get out on November the 5th and vote.
Hello, my name is Pat Gant, and I am the CEO of Feeding, Accepting, Inspiring, and Hurting, Incorporated. And I am inviting you to our 5th annual First Lady of Columbus Charity Luncheon, where we honoring the mayor's wife, Miss Karen Henderson. Special guests, Miss Edwina Finley, Miss Carolyn Traylor, September the 14th at 11 a.m. at the Columbus Convention and Trade Center.
Prelude Events Studio, Columbus's premier luxury event design and aesthetics rental company. Located in the heart of the city, we specialize in creating memorable events for weddings, corporate events, social gatherings, and more. Our extensive collections of rentals, exquisite florals, and custom designs are available to bring your vision to life. Visit PreludeEventsStudio.com to request a quote or schedule a private warehouse tour. Experience the art of timeless elegance with Prelude Events.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. As we went to the break, we were talking about where are the parents. We do realize that law enforcement cannot raise the children. They can only guide and direct. So, gentlemen, share with us are you really, I'm pretty sure you are, seeing a lack of parental involvement? Do you think that played a big role in what you're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis?
I think so. Personally, I think so. It was said by Dr. Sigmund Freud that you can predict the future if you control the environment. What we see is that we see a lot of parents that have lost control of their child, which is their environment, so therefore they cannot predict the outcome of how that child is going to turn out. And what I've seen over the years that we're held to a certain standard as law enforcement officers. But when we get on calls, when we answer the calls, we only know 30 seconds based on a call of what happened. Versus there are parents and grandparents that are in the house that know the whole history. And so what ends up happening is that we get the worst end of it, although we have the short end of it because we don't know much about it. But when we get there, law enforcement officers are trained to address the problem. You know, not to be a counselor so much, but you can have compassion, but not to be a counselor. So we are a finder of fact. And so whatever the facts are, that's what leads us to do our jobs. But in many cases, that we have parents that will hold us to a higher standard than they're willing to hold themselves to. And so you can't have it both ways. And so what happens is that law enforcement ends up getting the black eye because sometimes when we have to put our hands on a child to gain control or a suspect to gain control, sometimes there are overzealous officers that do, but that's a small percentage. But for the most part, in order for us to do our job, it takes everybody help. And sometimes and I've seen it on domestic calls when I would answer calls as a patrolman. One of the things that I saw that really shocked me was a mother called us for us to come over so she can discipline her child. Well, I was there to do a report to make sure that they couldn't say that the mother abused the child, but the child kicked the mother. And before I knew it, I was holding the child like the child was mine, but there's a lack of respect when parents have to call law enforcement officers to come over just for them to spank their child. And so, but we got to get back to having a value system, and a lot of that includes prayer. You know, a lot of people don't want to, talk about faith and talk about prayer, but we cannot do anything. And I keep this with me. This is a mustard seed right here. This is a mustard seed. You can't see it, and a lot of times our circumstances and our situations overwhelm us to where we can't see our faith. But sometimes what the Lord wants us to do is to step back out of ourselves, deny ourselves, and allow the Lord to come in to deal with a lot of issues, and we are not willing to even give him that. And so we want a quick fix. But A lot of that, it takes faith, because like I tell my kids, it takes patience to have faith, but it takes faith to have patience. And so a lot of things that we deal with today in society, it deals with faith and patience, but you got to be persistent to get through it, and you got to be intentional. You can't give up.
Absolutely. Awesome. Wow.
So y'all didn't know he was a preacher on the side.
That's right.
I'm enlightening y'all tonight. I think something that I see is parents of the kids that we deal with today are a lot of times substance abuse with the parents. So what happens is grandparents wind up trying to raise a child, and that's a problem. It's a problem on, more often than not, the grandparents aren't technically savvy enough to be a parent today. And I don't mean that ugly, but my parents can't do it. I can tell you that they barely know how to dial a number on the phone, on a cell phone today. They can't check, if they had to check my kids' social media and make sure they're not playing these games I'm talking about. They don't know how to do that. They just aren't savvy enough, most of them. And they're tired. They done raised their kids.
Right.
They done these things. They can't run the streets and keep up with the kids that are out there today. So as much as we help the grandparents trying to help, it presents its own set of problems with, their age and that distance in age. So.
Wow. Well, I think you preach on the side too.
No, I sing on the side. I don't preach on the side.
You sing on the side. You are absolutely correct. My mother is in the audience, and if I had to put a flip phone in front of her, she'll tell me to take that the other way, because she still, a smartphone. Because she has a flip phone. She don't even know where to go with a smartphone. So, thank the Lord, somebody in the family can do it. But you are absolutely correct. And if they don't know, they're intimidated by, technology. So I'm glad you shared that. We have some more questions, so we want to make sure that okay, yes.
So I am, it's on, okay. So I work in public housing. So I see firsthand a lot of kids who are growing up with young mothers and they don't know how. I said that to say when I was growing up, we had the Big Brother, Big Sister program. But the Big Brother, Big Sister program was done by law enforcement. So our big brother or big sister was part of law enforcement. So on one hand, we got the big sister or the big brother, according on if you're a male. And then on the other hand, you had someone in law enforcement to guide you and tell you what they see firsthand. And it helped our community because, they were our guidance. Is that anything that you see in the future coming about?
For us, we've been talking about bringing it back. We had it years ago, and we got a little bit shorthanded, and COVID hit, and all kind of issues came about, none being an excuse, but we are having conversations about getting that back on the books with our schools and working through our school system to let our law enforcement officers be big brothers and big sisters again.
Wow.
Right. Right. That's right.
Wow, that's good. Let's get her a mic. Oh, okay, Shanae, someone.
The question that I had was, I appreciate everything that's been said. What is the difference between the sheriff department and police department, and how do you all work together?
Well,
I've always wanted to know.
Let me say this.
Good question.
I heard the term department. Sheriff's office is a constitutional office. It's the office of the sheriff. A department is subservient to city government. Sheriff is independent of government. And so the sheriff, there are 4 seats in any county that you have to have. That's sheriff, that's a tax commissioner, clerk of superior court, and a probate court judge. Under the Georgia law, it says that every county shall have a sheriff. Sheriff is mentioned over 600 times in Georgia law alone. It doesn't say that you have to have a police department, although we need police department, but sheriff's offices are more connected through job, that we're more connected, I think, to the community based on the duties that we have to perform being an elected official. The primary difference is that the responsibilities. Sheriff is responsible for a lot. The courts, the jails, registered sex offenders in Muskogee County, we have over 700 that we are responsible for. We are responsible for if there's a wanted person that's in Michigan, we have to go and pick them up. That's one of our deputies there that transport. They drive over 1,200 miles a week. Sheriff's office are responsible for protecting the courts. We are responsible for so much. And when you see a sheriff, I would say to tell that sheriff deputy, thank you. Because if my job was just one-dimensional, and I don't want to minimize anything, but just to answer calls, that would be a breeze. But my phone rings all the time because I have a constituency within our county jail where we have individuals that are sick, individuals that have mental health issues, and my phone rings all the time because there are several layers to what a sheriff does. But I think for me, that's one of the biggest difference, that sheriff is the officer of the court. I have about 7 or 8 courts that I'm responsible for alone, that I have to deal with judges, have to deal with DA, have to deal with solicitors, have to deal with other elected officials.
I would add to that, the sheriff is the oldest elected position in America. It is the very first elected position. It came from England. The sheriff was the person that controlled properties, and when we formed our country, that was the very first elected position in America. So it's the oldest constitutional office. The sheriff is the highest law enforcement position in any county of our country. There's just like Sheriff Countryman said, there's so many things that we do that law enforcement police officers don't do. You can do away with a police department, you can't do away with a sheriff's office. I have conservatorships and guardianships. Most people have no idea that my office is responsible for 24 people right now in my county that are either senior citizens that have no family, or they're mentally ill, or they're in a nursing home, that I am their sole guardian and conservator. I have all their checks, money. We take them to beauty shop appointments. We take them to doctor's offices, visits. We go grocery shopping for them. We do everything for 24 people in my office. Most people have no idea that we even do that, but it's the courts award those people who have no family to us because that's just part of what we do. And so there's just a lot that separates a sheriff. Around the country, and it's not just here, it's nothing different, but if you ask people around the country, would they rather deal with a police department or a sheriff's office? I'm going to tell you they're going to say sheriff's office. Not because I'm in it, but because the sheriff's deputies, they have to please the public. You have to deal with the public. If not, you guys kick us out of office every 4 years, and they lose their job. Municipalities aren't like that. Municipalities, they're appointed, and they have a merit system that they can't be fired unless it's something very specific that they do. So they really don't necessarily care as much about pleasing the public historically around the country as what A sheriff's office will.
And also part of the duty of a sheriff, that even if someone is convicted of murder, and if they get a bond, if they have to put up property, it's the sheriff that approves that. And so the sheriff is responsible for those individuals. When they sign that bond, you belong to the sheriff and that bonding company. And so the sheriff can hold that bonding company liable for that. So it's a lot of responsibility.
Wow, and you all are helping the community and us to look at it from a whole different view. Had no clue. We have some more questions. We'll try to get as many as we can. Oh, Mr. Mel Long out of Phoenix City.
This is no question. This is a good thing I'm finna say about these sheriff. Now, my good friend, Mr. Countryman and Mr. Taylor, I got personal relationship with those guys. I can call those guys. Those guys, they answer the telephone. They don't answer, they'll call you back. You know? One thing I like about you guys, I like you guys when things used to happen a few years back. People get killed. Sometimes it takes 4 months to find them. Now y'all get them in 2 or 3 days or the next day. So I got to give y'all credit. Y'all really have done a fantastic job. Y'all deserve y'all job y'all have. Y'all make y'all people work, and you work. So we want to thank you for what you do for the Bi-City area. Because I'm telling y'all guys.
Yes.
Y'all do good work for the Bi-City area. I seen over the years. I seen you had sheriff in Columbus. You had sheriff in Phoenix City. They don't solve the case quick, y'all do. I'm serious. Y'all take y'all job serious. Y'all taking all these people off the street. I got to just give it to you. Y'all got to do a good job. Then stay in there as long as you want it. That's why I look at it. I mean, hey, because we need people like you guys to do what y'all do.
Yes, sir.
To keep us safe. You ain't going to stop everything. You might can't stop, but you'll sure get them. You did. But thank y'all so much for the job y'all have done. Thank you.
And also, I forgot to add too that the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer for the county. The sheriff is the keeper of the peace for the county, and the sheriff is also the chief jailer.
Wow. I'm glad Mr. Mel Long shared that he's with Mel and A Barbershop in Phoenix City, because I can only imagine you guys don't get enough of thank yous like that. You get probably a lot of calls with negative things, but not a whole lot of thank you. We appreciate you.
But you know, believe it or not, sheriffs get a lot of thank yous. We get that all the time because of the work that we do in the community, because as Sheriff Taylor said, that we're more vested to the community, that there's an interest in the community, because working for an elected official is different than working for an appointed official.
That's true.
Because you know that when that person picks up the phone and calls up the sheriff is going to have the right kind of conversation with that person to where they understand that we work for the citizens.
Wow, I love it.
You know, I would, Mel, I appreciate you saying that. We do, as the sheriff office holder, I'm sure Greg hears it the way I do, we do get to hear some of the good things. What I would ask of you is say it to the deputy. They're the ones that don't get to hear it a lot. They're on the street, they're doing the job, they're working, they're trying to raise a family, they got kids. They're the ones that don't get to hear it as often. So if you get an opportunity, just say thank you to one of those guys.
That's true.
And I want to say thank you to two of mine that are here, because, you know, they know that I value what they do. I love to tease with them, and they are family, and we have fun within the sheriff's office. And so I thank them for the work that they do. I think all 400 plus of what we have, because not only our sheriff's office, but partner and neighboring sheriff's office as well.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because your two, I feel like my two as well, because I get to see them a lot. I feel like they're part of our church family as well. And Stephanie and Reggie, when I talk to them at church, I love it that the children I love the community policing. That's what I was telling Stephanie and Reggie, how the children at church look forward to seeing them on Sunday.
Praise God.
We didn't grow up seeing that a whole lot. And they're very intentional about relationship. And so that's why I wanted to be able to share this with the community in our region. We're going to take probably one or two more questions before we get ready to close out the show. Anybody else have a question? Yes.
So I just wanted to maybe, if this is my parting comments, please tell your kids and your families there are time and place to argue on the side of the road is not it. When you get stopped by an officer, a deputy, a city, a state trooper, just do what they ask. People forget that when you get a driver's license, it's a privilege, it's not a right. And on that card, you sign a consent, an implied consent that says, if I get stopped, I'm going to provide the officer with my license. All this stuff you see on TV and you see on social media, I don't have to do this, I wasn't doing, that's just not true. It's just not true. When you get that license, you sign an implied consent that says if you get stopped, you're going to give that information up. So much happens from that point. So much happens with these kids that think they can just, I don't want to give you my license. And it goes downhill. So I see it. I wished I could stop it. But just please, the time and place. If they didn't do something, come see me. If it's one of my deputies, come see me. Let me look into it. Go see Greg. Everybody's wearing a camera. Everybody's got a camera. My guys have them. The public has them. We don't stop nobody that don't have a cell phone. So, let's handle it the right way. Let's take it to court. Let's get it dismissed by us. And we can handle that so much easier. It's easy to dismiss a ticket if it was the wrong ticket. It's easy. There's no sense in somebody losing a life, my guys or the public, over a speeding violation. I mean, it's just not called for. So if I could just ask to talk about that in the community, it would help us.
Wow. Awesome. Let's give them a hand. Wow. Amazing. So if anybody in the community needed to reach out to you all, needed information about resources for their family, how do they go about it?
You can call the Sheriff's Office, Muskogee County Sheriff's Office, 706-225-4225. And if you need to reach me, 225-3380. That's my direct line.
You need to get me, 225-228. I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna put his cell phone number on Facebook for everybody.
Well, they are one. They work together.
Our office is 334-298-6535 is the sheriff's office.
Awesome. Wow. Well, we want to thank you guys for your service. Thank you for taking the time to come on today's show. Let's give them a hand. They are amazing. Also, before we get ready to close out, we have our vendors. We've given away some books. So we want to make sure that who was here first? Any guess? That's from, okay. We want to give away, we got 2 books. Okay, come on, yes. Let's give her a book yes. It's awesome. And let's see, we got another book. Mr. Marsh's wife right here. Yes. He had a great question. And then Pam, we have 2 books from Pam. Is that in the back? We want to get those out too. I want to let the community know, and for those that are here in the audience, There's a movie being filmed right here in Columbus right now. And the author is here, and her book is being turned into a movie. So we want to give away 2 of her books. So anybody interested? Yes, okay. Attorney Belinda Strickland. So we're going to give her book to her, and then Ray. She did my makeup. Ray in the back, because she was like, I want to know more about that book. So we'll make sure they get the book. We want to thank our sponsors for being our sponsor. Thank you, Belinda Strickland, Attorney Strickland, and also Faith Organization. Remember to support them. They do a lot in our community. And also I'm going to give a shout out to Mr. Johnny James Barbershop in Phoenix City. He came on and wanted to be a sponsor as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, we've enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Share your feedback. Continue to follow us, Loretta Rose. Thank you so much for watching the Loretta Rose Show. Awesome. Good job.